The next time I catch y'all viewing my videos and not liking my videos, we gonna have a problem.
Imagine surviving a brutal shooting that killed your boyfriend right in front of you, and then marrying the man who planned it all. Sounds unbelievable, right? But for Edwina Martin, that was her real life. And years later, the same man came back to finish what he started. If you like real stories that leave you speechless or wondering what the hell really happened, hit that subscribe button right now. You don't want to miss this one. Edwina Martin was just a girl from Little Rock, Arkansas. She was born and raised in that southern city, a place known for its history, its charm, and its struggles. Growing up, Edwina didn't have it easy. She came from a modest background, not a lot of money, but plenty of love. Her family was close-knit, her upbringing simple. Sundays meant church, dinner with loved ones, and laughter that filled the house. She was known for her gentle spirit, always helping, always showing up for others. Even as a little girl, she had that light, the kind of presence that makes you feel safe just being near her. In school, she kept her head down, stayed out of trouble, and worked hard. People said she wasn't loud, but she was dependable, kind, respectful, and full of quiet strength. As she grew older, she became a mother, and motherhood changed her. Her world began to revolve around her kids, providing for them, loving them, protecting them. She wanted better for them than what she had growing up, and for a moment, it looked like she was finally stepping into that better life. That's when she met Daniel Hill, the man who made her smile again. Daniel was kind. He wasn't flashy or loud, but he made her feel seen. He supported her, encouraged her, and loved her children like they were his own. Friends say Edwina seemed happy again. She was laughing more, glowing even. For the first time in a long time, she looked hopeful, but not everyone was happy about her happiness. Danny Maurice Brown, her ex, and the father of her youngest child, was watching from the sidelines. A man with a temper, a man who couldn't let go. And what started as quiet jealousy would turn into a nightmare no one saw coming. For Edwina Martin, that person was Danny Maurice Brown, her ex-boyfriend, the father of one of her kids, and the man she would eventually marry, out of fear, love, or something far more complicated. Danny wasn't just any ex. From the start, there were signs. He was possessive, controlling, and emotionally manipulative. People close to Edwina say he would flip from charming to furious in seconds. One moment he was sweet, texting her like he cared. The next, he was cold, threatening, and cruel. That's the thing about psychological abuse. It's not always loud. Sometimes it creeps in quietly. It's guilt-tripping. It's showing up uninvited. It's using the child they share as an excuse to keep calling, to keep texting, to stay in control. And Edwina? She tried to move on. She found happiness again with Daniel Hill, a peaceful man, someone who treated her with the care and respect she deserved. But Danny couldn't take it. For a man like him, losing control wasn't just painful, it was unacceptable. And when a narcissist or abuser loses control, they don't just let go. They plot. Behind the scenes, Danny became more than just bitter. He became dangerous. He allegedly started making calls, talking to the wrong people. And according to investigators, he set in motion a plan that would shake Edwina's world forever. Here's a question for you watching this. Have you ever been with someone who couldn't let go? Someone who made you feel like leaving them meant risking everything, even your life? Because for Edwina, that fear became real. It was supposed to be a regular night. Just Edwina, her boyfriend Daniel Hill, and a quiet evening at home on Fairley Drive in Little Rock. But what they didn't know was that someone had already made up their mind that Daniel shouldn't make it out alive. According to police reports and court documents, Danny Maurice Brown wasn't done with Edwina, not by a long shot. He was watching from the shadows. Not physically, maybe, but mentally, emotionally, and strategically. Investigators believe Danny hired 2 gunmen to do what he couldn't do himself, end the man Edwina loved, and send her a message she'd never forget. Think about that for a second. Not just breaking her heart, not just threatening her happiness, but trying to take it from her permanently. On that fateful night in August 2012, the shooters knocked on the door. Edwina opened it, not knowing she was standing inches from death. Within seconds, chaos exploded. Gunfire, screaming, blood. Daniel Hill was hit multiple times. He didn't survive. Edwina was also shot, but by what can only be called a miracle, she survived. Barely. She was rushed to the hospital, her body torn, her heart shattered. Imagine surviving that. Imagine watching the man you love take his last breath right in front of you and knowing deep down that it wasn't random. Someone you once loved might have wanted you both dead. Now let's pause and talk about the psychological weight of this. Edwina didn't just lose her boyfriend. She lost her peace of mind. She lost the feeling of safety in her own home. Survivors of violence like this often live with something called trauma bonding. It's when you become emotionally tied to your abuser through a cycle of fear, guilt, and survival. In situations like Edwina's, victims don't always run. Sometimes they go back, not because they're weak, but because they're mentally and emotionally exhausted, and the abuser is skilled at making them believe they have no one else. Let me ask you something real. If someone tried to take your life and succeeded in taking someone you loved, why would you ever go back to them? Seems impossible, right? And yet, that's exactly what happened next, because just 2 weeks after that shooting, Edwina married Danny Brown. 2 weeks after Edwina was shot, 2 weeks after Daniel Hill, the man she loved, was murdered in cold blood. She made a decision no one saw coming. She married Danny Maurice Brown, the man many believed was behind it all. The same man investigators would later arrest for setting up the ambush. But how does that happen? Why would someone marry their abuser, their potential killer? The answer isn't simple, but it's real. Danny wasn't just violent, he was strategic. He knew how to push buttons. He knew how to apologize just right. He knew how to make Edwina question her own reality. Victims of trauma bonding often say things like, "He said he'd change. He was there when nobody else was. He said he loved me, and I wanted to believe it." And sometimes they go back because they're tired of fighting alone. But let's go even deeper. What if Edwina wasn't just manipulated? What if she was afraid? Afraid that leaving him for good would put a target back on her back. Afraid he'd come after her kids. Afraid the system wouldn't protect her, so instead of running, she did what many victims do. She survived by staying. If walking away means putting your life in danger, is staying really a choice? Would you do something unthinkable just to stay alive? Because for Edwina Martin, that unthinkable choice was walking down the aisle with a man she may have believed had already taken everything from her, and for the next 10 years, she would live as his wife, but not in peace, in fear. For the next 10 years, Edwina lived as Mrs. Danny Brown, on paper, a wife, but in reality, she was a prisoner in plain sight. The woman who once smiled wide, who once laughed freely, was now walking on eggshells every single day. Those close to her say things changed after the wedding. Edwina stopped going out. She barely posted on social media. She stopped smiling in photos when she appeared in them at all. Behind closed doors, she was reportedly controlled. Danny dictated who she could talk to, where she could go, and what she could do. It's the classic pattern of coercive control. An abuser doesn't need to hit you to break you. They just slowly strip away your freedom piece by piece. You stop arguing, you stop dreaming, you just exist. Living under that kind of pressure changes a person. Edwina may have still looked like Edwina, but inside she was surviving minute to minute. And here's the dangerous part. You get used to it. You normalize the chaos. You convince yourself it's not that bad, because at least he's not hitting you today. And by the time you realize how deep you've sunk, you can't even see a way out. Family and friends tried to reach out over the years, but there were barriers. Conversations became shorter. Edwina seemed guarded. Some said she was afraid to say too much. Others felt like she was just tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of explaining. Tired of surviving. And then, little by little, Edwina started to pull away. That's what abusers want. Isolation. When a woman has no one left to turn to, she's easier to control. Reports say Danny's behavior never really changed. There were arguments, threats, allegations of emotional abuse. But just like before, there were also moments of fake peace. "I'm sorry. You know I love you. I'll do better." Over and over. It's a cycle, and Edwina was caught in it for a decade, until something in her finally broke. If you've never been in that kind of relationship, it's easy to ask, why didn't she leave? But for women like Edwina, leaving is often the most dangerous thing they can do. And when she finally tried, Danny made sure she wouldn't get another chance. After years of silent suffering, of living in fear, Edwina Martin finally found the courage to say, enough. The details are still unfolding, but according to sources close to the family, Edwina had recently begun pulling away from Danny. She wanted out, for good this time. Maybe she was tired of living in fear. Maybe she was doing it for her children. Or maybe she just realized she still had a future worth fighting for. Experts will tell you, the most dangerous time for any victim of domestic abuse is when they finally try to leave. Why? Because the abuser senses they're losing control. And to someone like Danny Maurice Brown, control was everything. He wasn't going to let Edwina go, not without making her pay the ultimate price. On May 12, 2023, police were called to a home on Wedgwood Drive in Little Rock, Arkansas. Inside, they found Edwina Martin shot dead. The very man she had married, the father of one of her children, the man who once tried to have her killed, had now allegedly taken her life with his own hands. And then he vanished. After the murder, Danny fled the scene and crossed state lines, making his way from Arkansas to Texas, where he hoped to disappear. He cut off his social media. He stopped contacting family. He vanished like a ghost. But law enforcement was already closing in. Within days, the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force joined the hunt. And on May 17, 2023, they caught up with him in Dallas, Texas. Danny Brown was arrested without incident and extradited back to Arkansas. His charge, capital murder. Here's what's chilling. Danny knew exactly what he was doing. He had stalked, manipulated, threatened. He had once hired others to pull the trigger, and failed. This time, he pulled the trigger himself. He had 10 years to finish the job, and when Edwina tried to finally break free, he made sure she couldn't. Let me ask you something real. What makes a person stay with someone who once tried to end their life? Or something deeper that most of us will never understand? And more importantly, if someone you loved was trapped in a relationship like this, what would you do? Could you see the warning signs? Would they even tell you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because someone else reading them might be going through the same thing, right now. After the sirens stop and the news trucks drive away, all that's left is silence. And for the family of Edwina Martin, that silence is deafening. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and she didn't deserve to die at the hands of someone who once said he loved her. As of now, Danny Maurice Brown is charged with capital murder. He's awaiting trial in Pulaski County. If convicted, he could face life in prison or even the death penalty under Arkansas law. But here's the thing. No sentence, no punishment will ever bring Edwina back. Her children will grow up without their mother. Her family will forever live with questions that can't be answered. And her name, it will now forever be tied to a tragedy that could have, and should have, been prevented. After her death, friends and family flooded social media with tributes. They remembered her laugh, her strength, her dedication to her kids. Vigils were held. Tears were shed. Stories were told of a woman who tried so hard to protect everyone, except herself. And while some people were shocked she had stayed so long with Danny, others weren't, because they knew. Abuse doesn't always look like bruises. Sometimes it looks like fear behind a smile, like silence in a room full of people, like someone slowly fading, even while standing right in front of you. Edwina Martin's story is heartbreaking. But it's not unique. Every year in the US, millions of women suffer in silence, and far too many of them, just like Edwina, Don't get out in time. What happened to her should serve as a warning, a wake-up call, a reason for all of us to pay attention to the people around us. What would you have said to Edwina if you had one last chance to speak to her? What signs do we miss when people are suffering quietly? And how many more lives have to be lost before we take these warning signs seriously? Her name was Edwina Martin. She was born in Little Rock. She was a daughter who loved her mother, a sister who always picked up the phone, a mom who showed up for every little moment, no matter how tired she was. She survived being shot. She survived losing the man she loved. She survived a toxic marriage for 10 long years. But in the end, she didn't survive him. Danny Maurice Brown took everything from her. First her peace, then her love, then her life. This wasn't just a murder. This was a system failure. A woman cried out in silence for years, and nobody heard her loud enough. That's the part that breaks you. That's the part that makes you angry. That's the part that makes you wonder. How many Edwinas are walking around right now, smiling in front of you but dying inside? How many people do you know who are fine, but haven't been fine in years? What would happen if we looked a little closer, listened a little harder, cared a little more? Would Edwina still be here? Maybe we'll never know. But we do know this. Her story matters. And if it makes even one person stop, look around and ask, "Are you okay?" Then maybe her voice didn't die with her. Edwina wasn't just a victim, she was a mother. She leaves behind 2 beautiful children, a young boy, Danny Maurice Brown III, and a little girl, Danielle Mashal Brown. They were her world, her strength, the reason she kept going on days when it would have been easier to give up. Every meal she made, every school event she showed up for, every quiet prayer whispered before bed. It was all for them. And now, those children are left with the unthinkable. Their mother is gone, and their father is in jail for taking her life. One day they will have questions, and when that day comes, what will we tell them? That their mother was brave? That she fought as long as she could? That she deserved more than this ending? Because she did, she truly did. If Edwina were your sister, your friend, your daughter, would you have noticed the signs? Would you have believed her if she told you she was scared, but stayed anyway? Would you have asked her if she was really okay, and waited for the real answer? Too often we wait until it's too late. So now we're asking you, what would you say to Edwina today if she could still hear you? Drop it in the comments. Maybe your words will help someone else find the courage to leave before it's too late. Subscribe for more stories that deserve to be heard. Tell us where you're watching from, your city. See you in the next one.